Welcome to the Squad Games Podcast. Squad Games Podcast.
Yeah, am I allowed to curse or should I keep it PG?
I don't know. You've been winning Best Sportsman. You tell me.
All right, I'll cut a little loose. I'll cut a little loose. Sure.
All right. we gotta ruin that sportsmanship. Everyone looks at you as the sportsmanship king. You know.
This is good. I'm going for worst sportsman at the LVO, so that should be fun.
Become a pariah in the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we already have a couple of those.
Oh no.
I don't know if Aidan could do anything to get there. So today on the podcast, we have Aidan. Aidan, do you want to say your last name or is it secret?
I'll say my last name. It's McGath, although most people will probably pronounce it McGeeth, and either way, that's fine.
I'm pretty sure that we've always pronounced it McGeeth, but McGath, got it.
McGath, gotcha.
Similar to Rob McLeod. We said his name for a long time wrong.
How were you saying it?
I can't even remember because I've tried to change my brain. Also, Jonathan Marquis. Instead of Jonathan Marquis. And then also my wife, I called her Saya for the first year that I knew her instead of Saya. So if I say your name wrong and I meet you in real life, I'm sorry. It's normal. So, today we have Aidan on. And
Squad Games Podcast.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of kind of like, recently, like 2 weeks ago, we did kind of like all the controversial tournament subjects. Last week we did the how-to, and this week, probably the most important bit is sportsmanship.
Yep.
And we've been extremely impressed with Aidan and how he's conducted himself at all of our events. In fact, every single event that Aidan has ever been to, he's won best sportsmanship. And that's not just at my events. You won everything. You've won at down in San Diego, both events with Cam being TO, correct?
At the second event, one of my opponents actually won best sportsman. So I gotta give him a shout out. I'm terrible with names, so I have to keep all of my score trackers to remember all of my opponents. But it was Dylan who won.
All right.
Yeah, he was playing Vet Guard. He played it quite well.
Yeah, so you're nearly undefeated. 90% win rate.
Still pretty good.
Yeah. When I was playing the Pokemon United game, I had a 97% win rate for Charizard. And I was too good at it, and so I had to quit. It was too easy.
Are you telling him to quit sportsmanship?
No, definitely not.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
You do. So, I believe everyone on the podcast has won sportsmanship here at one point or another. I think I won it at KTO. I don't remember if I won BAO or not. And I don't get to compete very much. So I think those are the only two that I've won, and those were both this year.
Very nice.
G, did you win any best sportsmanship recently?
Hell no, I'm an asshole.
Complete. Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot that G is a giant asshole. Aidan, you won, I believe it was, you didn't win SummerSlam. You won the Addies tournament before that. Then you won AVTT. Yes. Then you won SoCal Open, correct?
Wow.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's
back to
huge.
back to back.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So today we're going to go over not only like how you've gotten to win sportsmanship, how I've gotten to win sportsmanship, tools and strategies that we use as interpersonal communication, things that we think about before the game, but also like if you've ever had to deal with any opponents that were difficult and how you dealt with them. Same thing with UG and myself. Kind of give those tactics because, here's the thing, right? We play Kill Team. We play in a game that everyone is human. some days people have bad days. Some days people don't. Some people are, innately dickheads, and that's okay, right? Like, we're all human beings. So it's kind of like learning how to deal with people in a positive way without it letting it affect you, so that both players can try to play to the maximum enjoyment that they can. So that's kind of the subject for today's podcast. If you guys hate sportsmanship, then go ahead and turn it off now, because that's all you're going to hear is great stuff here from on out, All right. So I'd like to start off with saying that, like, one of the things that we do at Squad Games is that as a tournament organizer, anyone that wins sportsmanship at our events, we typically say, like, hey, you get to come to our next event for free, or in the All Valley Team Tournament case, if you win an event, that event, you also get to come next year for free, because you are the players that we want to keep around. And I think that not enough is given to best sportsmanship players out there. So, Aidan, my man.
That's me.
Yeah, you do a lot of pre-planning for these, or at least I think you do, according to some of the stuff I've seen you do at the table. Is there anything that you do specifically to help you make sure that you and your opponent have a good time?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that I've kind of learned that I always appreciate from my opponents. I'm not the most, we'll say, competitively viable player. So I appreciate when I'm going against an opponent who's maybe playing a team I've never played against before, and they kind of let me know right at the start if they have, like, what kind of gotchas they have in their army or in their, like, kill team list, or if you're playing a different game, whether it's like a card game, some like card they may have. And it's nice to let those known have those be known at the beginning. So that way, if I get caught by one of them, I know it's on me instead of on my opponent. So I usually try to let my opponent know anything that maybe might catch them off guard, any rules that kind of break the rules of the game. Because I feel like there's a decent amount of those in Kill Team, where in something will just, like, not work super intuitively, and it takes like a time or two to explain it. So I usually try to let them know that before the game as well. And I usually try to come to a tournament and give a little gift to each opponent, because everyone likes to get a good gift. Mm-hmm. At the AVTT, my teammates and I all dressed up as pirates because we were all playing Red Corsairs for the tournament. So we give everyone little doubloons to use as, I don't know, like an objective marker, or they're the right size. You could feasibly put them in like a vending machine and use them as a quarter if you wanted to. So they might be worth something there.
25 cents. There we go.
Couldn't tell you if anyone's tried to do that yet. And then for the SoCal Open, I was playing my Hand of the Archon team, and they have like desert theme bases. So I had a bunch of extra like 3D printed cactuses and bits and stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not going to ever use these again. So I painted them up, but I put them on little bases and handed them all out to my opponents to use as like an objective marker or as like a base tracker or something like that. Because everyone likes getting a little gift. And it's a way to like commemorate, I think, having a really fun game against someone. Because that's, I think, the main reason. I don't know if it's the main reason everyone goes to an event, but I go to events, especially the ones you guys run, because they're a ton of fun and because I get to meet and play against a bunch of new people, which is fun because I usually play against the same like 2 or 3 friends. And while I love those guys, it does get a little samey. So it's great to play against new people.
Yeah, they're all great sportsmen as well. Shout out to them. What are their names from the AVTT?
Yeah, we'll give them a shout out. We're all at least planning on coming to the Las Vegas Open. So nice. Elijah is one of them. I've known Elijah for forever, at least Elijah. Like 10 years now. Connor played in the AVTT, and then he also came to SoCal Open.
So speaking of Connor, he actually almost took it away from you at the SoCal Open.
Yeah, we had a little fight about that in the car on the way back.
Scandalous.
He said he was going to take. Yeah, he said he was going to take it from me, but not this time. Not this time.
I think one of my favorite things that I saw at the AVTT was you guys didn't actually have a team captain, and you guys decided as a team that whoever scored the highest in each particular round was the captain for the next round because you guys were all pirates.
Yes.
It was so much fun to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our opponents got like strangely invested in which one of us was going to score the most points. And I will be frank, we did not win very many games. Which is also a good way to get people to like you, I guess, is not by winning very many games. But we got very into which one of us between the three of us would score the most points. And then whoever was previously the captain got demoted down to cabin boy. And they had to, fetch all the drinks and get all the snacks and get the lunches out of the car and pack things up, stuff like that for the round. Yeah. I think I was cabin boy overnight in between the two events. So for sure spent the most time.
So dinner was on you, essentially.
The captain got to do all of our roles to decide our matchups and stuff too, which was fun. It was fun to be like, oh, great, it's me this time. I get to decide.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It was fun.
G was sick for AVTT, so he didn't get to see you guys in your glorious.
I did not.
Your glorious, pirateness.
Yeah, Connor and I, we did break character, but Elijah fully did not break character for 2 days straight, and he was destroyed by the end of it. His voice was obliterated.
He even got me to play along a couple times. I'd walk up and talk like a pirate to him, and I'd be like, "Hey, matey, what is he doing there?" And he's like, "Oh, he stabbed him in the belly." Stuff like that. It was good stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like Elijah.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, it's funny that you say that you kind of make gifts for your opponents because the two tournaments that I think I won best sportsmanship at, I also did the same. I did not win it at Nova, and we'll talk about that. So the KTO, I never played Into the Dark before. I didn't think I'd do very well. I think I ended up placing in the 30s after I got spanked by both the Garrett brothers.
Brutal.
2 children. Yeah, they beat the shit out of me. It was good times.
I've been there. I have been there myself. Yes.
So, but yeah, so when I went there, I made everyone a KTO 3-inch measurement gauge, and then at BAO, I did the same thing, and then at Nova, I did the same thing. I did not end up getting best sportsman at Nova. It's probably because I was actually trying to win that event. I was actually trying to. I was seeing if I could get a golden ticket, see how far I could go. I feel like the more that you walk into a tournament thinking that you need to win, the less sportsmanlike you're going to be. Now, by no means was I a poor sport, but I was a little bit more sweaty than I would say that I was at other tournaments, just because, I was trying. all the little bits and things that come with winning games a little bit more, because when VetGuard win games, they don't typically win games just by this hair on the chin, right? They usually if you win a game, it's more than likely you blew the other person out of the water. If you lose out of the water, and if you're close, it's probably more close. But with me winning 4 games on day 1 and then going on from there, day 2, I definitely came in with a lot of sweat. I lost the first game to Nick, but that kind of took a lot of pressure off me because I realized I wasn't going to win anymore. So, but there was a couple more, sometimes socially different games that you have when you run into playing at those not only those levels, but against those players. Now, did you have you ran into any games? We don't have to name names, but any games that were particularly more socially awkward or difficult for you to deal with, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, I've definitely run into that before. Prior to playing Kill Team, I've played a few other war games, and when I was in high school, I played a lot of War Machine. I think it was Mark II, and not to be rude, but War Machine was kind of a sweaty game, and I'm not I'd like to think I'm not a particularly sweaty guy, but the game itself kind of called for it. Like that was just in the rules of engagement, I guess, was being a little sweaty. So I found, and I think it works for Kill Team as well. I think it's very important to be excited for your opponent when they pull off a cool play or when something goes well for them, because oftentimes they'll want to celebrate that, and they'll want to feel good about it. And it's nice to give an opponent an opportunity to do that without making them feel like they're kind of rubbing it in your face.
Absolutely.
Because everyone wants to celebrate something cool happening. Like I had same goes if something bad happens to me. I enjoy when bad things happen to me at a game because I find them fun. But I remember certainly not a low light, but one of the highlights of the AVTT, I had 2 separate games where I rolled, I think, all ones on my Shrive Talon's attacks in melee. And
Lord.
he got murdered twice in a row. It was brutal. One of them was on the sick, like, Dark Eldar board that you guys had there. And he did a jump check, made the jump, and jumped into the Reavers. And just got skewered on the jump, immediately died. Which was brutal, but it was one of the most fun moments I think I had in the entire tournament. And I could tell like my opponent wanted to celebrate it because it was an awesome moment for him. And it's fun to give your opponent an opportunity to be like, yeah, that was sick. I did just do a sick move. I rolled really hot. I've rolled all of my 6-up DPR saves and have cranked them all. You can let them celebrate it. That's awesome. You should be celebrating it with them.
Absolutely.
At least in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's
yeah.
To let something like that, like, or if somebody rolls like plasma and they get like 4 6s, you're like, well, instead of just saying like, oh, he's dead, just be like, damn, bro, nice roll. Like give a high five, or damn girl, high five.
Yeah. Promote that guy afterwards. If he's just a normal guardsman, you'd be like, hey, maybe that guy's the leader next.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Be like,
bump him up.
Yeah. Give him a name.
Give him a name.
Yeah, that's even better.
This is now Sergeant Johnson.
Exactly.
Or, something good. How about you, G? Any particularly hard things that you've also dealt with before?
Yeah, when I used to play Magic, I used to do a lot of drafts, and drafts kind of go on late at night, and so some people get pretty cranky at those levels, and it's just trying to understand where they're coming from. Like, they're not necessarily trying to be rude. They're tired. They probably worked all day, and now they're playing until 2 a.m. So, maybe they're not always at their best behavior. So it's just kind of important to think about your opponent, like where they're coming from, so like they're probably not trying to be rude or, a jerk on purpose. It's happening because, there's all sorts of factors. And so I've come to not necessarily be salty with the person, just, have empathy for them.
Yeah, I think I've been competing in wargaming off and on for the past 23 years. So I think I've ran into my quite fair share of stuff. And also, when I started, I was also not the most sportsmanlike either. Winning meant more than me than my opponents having fun, right? So like some of the things I used to do was like when somebody would like start moving a model somewhere that I didn't want them to go, I'd start smiling or laughing. I'd be like, oh, thanks, bro. Nice, good move there.
Ooh.
And then they'd move them back, or just playing in the mental warfare. Why by no means is that necessarily illegal. When winning means more than anything, you're going to take any advantage that you can get, right? And when I first started playing like Warhammer, like I was undefeated for like, I don't know, like 6 years. I tied quite a few times, but between I think it was like the end of third and the beginning of sixth, I just didn't lose. Now it was mainly because of like the type of army I played. I played Eldar. I played like a very off meta list and stuff like that, but also like I employed a lot of things that aren't particularly super nice. You know, so like there's, when I stopped playing, I think in near the end of seventh, and I didn't pick it up again until like, I don't know, the end of ninth, for Warhammer. And for Kill Team, I picked it up in 2020, and even in the Kill Team for 2020, you know, I went in to win. By no means, Kill Team 2020 did I win or even get considered for best sportsman. There was a game that I won 24-0 against a Warp Coven player. I apologize afterwards. Yeah, it was bad. I tabled him in the middle of Turning Point 2. And I apologized to him, and I was like, hey, you know, my wife plays Warp Coven. I got a really good charge off, and I killed like 2 of your models with my Howling Banshee. You know, and I said like, hey, you know, like also your list was really sub-optimized for Eldar, and I gave him a bunch of tips. And little did I know, there was a writer for Goonhammer. I don't remember then I got the guy's name, but he was also playing Warp Coven, and he was sitting there listening to the whole thing. We went home, came back, and it turns out I had to play that guy the next day, and I just told him how to beat me. And I only won that game by 1. But you know, like the thing is like, I think when it really changed for me was starting to run events. It's more important for me to have players have fun with me than for me to prove my dominance or to win, right? To me, it's more fun to have people have fun and come to events than it is for me to win. So that general mindset for me is what changed the way I typically played. And I think I'm all the better for it, for sure. But going back to how like hard instances, you know, that I've played into, especially in like Warhammer or other Kill Team games. One of the things that I constantly do is I try to break the ice now over and over and over. I think it's really easy to do when you have like a team full of like named heroes like I have. In other ones, like it's a little bit easier if you have a little bit of a narrative to your team and you actually like call your dudes by some names on occasion. Or you make jokes about the models or about the game itself or in game. And I think that constantly trying to break the ice, because the thing is like both players are trying to win, and it's difficult to break that tension, especially during certain roll-offs, unless if somebody's just like, you know, making jokes, right?
Right.
So between gift giving and making a lot of jokes, typically dad jokes, you know, I annoy the shit out of some people. You know, I'm a pretty polarizing person, right? Like people either love me or they hate me. And if they don't like hugs, you know, they probably hate me, 'cause I'm a huggy guy. Right. But yeah, so I think that when people get really hurt or salty when they win or when they lose is some of the harder things to deal with, or when they're losing. Right. And it's hard to continually break that. And it's also gives you a lot of stress and pressure to continually to try and either cheer your opponent up or stuff like that. Have you guys ever dealt with somebody who's not lost with grace, and how did you guys deal with that?
Ooh, you can take this one first.
Yeah, sounds good. I feel like inevitably at a tournament, you're going to run into an opponent who is going to enjoy losing less than you. And in Kill Team, usually in Kill Team, I find and maybe this is just me being dumb, but it could be kind of hard to tell how the game is going to finish unless it's like a complete steamroll. Because there are some dice rolls that can go really well, or an opponent might misplace a model, or I might misplace a model. So I find if I know that I'm doing better than an opponent in a match and they're kind of struggling, or if they're having like maybe a bad matchup, I find it is fun to celebrate what like victories they do get. Like if they've been trying to take out one of my models the entire game, and they finally get it, it'll be a fun thing to celebrate with them. Like, oh, you finally got that guy. Like he's out of your hair. You don't have to worry about him anymore. But yeah, definitely, for sure, I've run into opponents that don't enjoy losing, and it's hard. I mean, I don't enjoy losing either, but I do it a lot. So, yeah.
Typically, when I'm in that situation, I think of the one example that happened years ago. Not for Kill Team. It was more for 40K, and it was just a casual thing too. Just some people we were meeting and playing with. When you get salty especially for casual stuff, like and you get upset and you're irate, you try to de-escalate it first if you can, right? But it's important to never continue yelling at them or something, or try not to rub it in their face either, because that's just gonna like exacerbate the problem. And I think it's okay, like once they've calmed down, to kind of tell them like, hey, man, you didn't have a great game or anything, but think about how you're acting and how it might be affecting the other people and like your opponents, because it's where it's a mutual game. There's two people playing, right? It's a gentleman's game. So I think what most people say about war games, it's a gentleman's game, gentleman, gentle person, whatever. And perhaps you're losing the spirit or something, and people don't always tell them that, right? So getting the courage to tell them maybe after they've kind of calmed down, so that they can kind of get a moment of self-reflection, is important, because that's big. Otherwise, they're going to keep doing that kind of stuff. That's what I find can work in my experiences. And it's hard because sometimes you don't want to tell people like something they might be doing is hurting others.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult subject, right? Like confrontation is never easy or fun. That's why TOs are there, right? Like if you're really having a bad game against someone, you can go up and tell a TO and be like, hey, I'm having a really bad time against this player. Is there any way that you can watch, or, something like that? Like, for instance, another thing that you can do is that there's been, certain people that I don't want to play or don't want to play again because I've had experienced, bad things with them in the past. And if I ever got teamed up with them at a tournament, I would just drop the round. Like, to me, it's more important for me to maintain my happiness at a event rather than, going for the win. Yeah, a win would be great, right? Like winning the whole thing. But in the end, at the same time, like if it's going to mean more to the other person to like win the game and you're going to not enjoy yourself playing that game, then just concede, You can also ask a TO beforehand, be like, hey, I'd really prefer not to get paired up with this person, unless if it's the final matches. If there's any way that you can do that, cool. If you can't, I totally understand. But know that if I get paired up against this person, I'm probably going to concede, right? Right. Because there's also that aspect where there might be somebody out there that you don't want to play, and unfortunately, sometimes that happens. Like some people just don't like each other. That's fine. We're all humans. We're allowed to feel those feelings. And sometimes it's too hard when you have too much emotionally invested in order to stop a potential conflict. And sometimes it's better to avoid it. Another thing that you can do is try to talk to them before the event, talk to somebody after the event, talk to somebody over, online or Discord or phone call or text, if something really rubbed you the wrong way. But the least thing that you can do is tell a TO, right? If you have a poor time, you need to tell a TO. And unfortunately, a lot of times tournament organizers can't do anything after the game is played.
Mm-hmm.
Did they see half the things happen? No. Did they witness anything that happens? No. Like, could they see it during the event or during the match? Absolutely. And a lot of times, this happened recently. A TO might be watching a game and they might miss context. Maybe somebody's being rude to the other player, but the TO doesn't recognize that they're being rude or the other person is any sort of way, feeling in any sort of way, because the TO is missing the context of the conversation or the conflict that's been happening at the table, right? Because ultimately, like, being a TO is difficult, right? When you walk around tables, you're like a fly on the wall. You're watching these games, watching for people to cheat, watching people's body language. And it's really hard to spot poor sportsmanship unless something's blatantly obvious. It's also really hard to catch cheating unless something's blatantly obvious, or if you're turned on to aware to something. But moving on to cheating, have any of you guys played anyone who has cheated, and how did you deal with it?
Ooh, that is a good question. I don't think I've played anyone in Kill Team who's cheated, at least not that I've caught. But I, for sure, at least once or twice, a while ago when I played War Machine, it was a little easier to cheat because you had to put down, I don't know if either of you have ever played War Machine, but you have little tokens you have to put down that represent how much like power you're putting out into your like big robots or your big like monsters. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy to put down either too many or too little of those to then be able to like maximize things a bit more. Because if for half of the game, at least back when I played, if you had too much of one like resource on some of your big monsters, they could go nuts. So it was very easy for someone to put down 3 of these little stackable tiny chips that are, maybe like half an inch across instead of 2 to kind of buff something up. So that's something that I've for sure noticed back then. And I tend to treat it as though I'm like asking them a question, something like, hey, that ability used like 3 of those points instead of 2. Do you mind if I double check, or do you mind if I see your card? And then if it kind of escalates past that, or if that way they could show me like, oh, sorry, I made a mistake, or it does actually take X amount of chips. And then if it escalates past that, that's what the TO is there for, right? I don't think there should be anything bad with asking for a TO, especially because sometimes a rule just needs clarification. And sometimes, like, I know I get rules wrong all the time, and I don't intend to. And I'm always like more than happy to apologize and have the TO take a look if I've done something incorrect. And I kind of assume that of my opponent too, that maybe they've just made a mistake. And if they have cheated, then they can use the opportunity to be like, no, sorry, that was a mistake. Absolutely. The game can kind of go on as usual.
That's exactly how I conduct. If I think there might be something like that, then it's easiest. Like I play with a certain amount of people, and I played with a certain amount of people throughout my whole life. Sometimes they might make moves that seem a little too long, and so I'll ask, like, was that the correct movement? Because precision's important, especially when I used to play X-Wing. So it's one of those. Can we check just to make sure? Like, but not calling them out on it. And most of the time, this person would put their stuff back in the right spot. And I don't think it was intentional. I just think they're playing and just happens. I'm gonna believe that it's not intentional. Because I still play with this group of people, and one person in that group is still there, and I play with them. So I believe they did it accidentally.
Yeah, I think that like every person's cheated once or twice, whether you're in a board game, whether you stole some candy, you did something against the rules.
Oh yeah, man!
Right? Stole some Pokemon cards before.
Take an extra 200 on Monopoly,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So like, it's definitely happened. It's in our nature.
For sure.
I think that when it's done more maliciously or more often than not, or if somebody has like a history of it, because like sometimes if somebody moved an extra inch here and there so they could get onto an objective or so on and so forth, quite possibly, right? Unfortunately, it's a reality that sometimes it happens. And sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not intentional. And you can never know because you're not that person. So it's always best to err on the side that it's unintentional and that you treat everyone with the same amount of respect. If you start noticing a pattern, you got to let a TO know, or you got to know for future games if it's at your local game store, and so on and so forth. I've dealt with quite a few people who have cheated before. And I'm usually pretty vocal about it. But yeah, I'm a nice guy. Sometimes. Most of the time, I should say. Polarizing, right? So, but yeah, like when you notice things are happening more and more, sometimes I'll pull them aside and be like, hey man, you are consistently moving too much, right? Like this is a problem, and be like, hey, let's tighten it up a little bit and be like, all right, cool. It's like, sometimes I do it too, but but let's make sure that in a competitive game, we're both moving at the same time. Or, I think slow play is another one. Like there's some people in the kill team community who have been labeled as slow players. And while those might not be particularly like cheating, or somebody might not be doing an intentional, there are some people that get that complaint enough that it has to be intentional, or why are they taking so long to do or make certain ideas or moves, right? So like it's also up to TOs or players to kind of know if somebody has a history about that kind of stuff. Like you might be brand new, so you might not have any idea. And trust me, like that's some of the worst things. And that's why we talked about time clocks in a previous episode, is because you got stuff to talk about time clocks. We'll say something.
Yeah.
All right.
He's got time.
Oh, I got stuff to talk about time clocks. I don't think I've ever been to a kill team event that's used a time clock.
We did at SoCal, but it was only at top table.
Oh, well, I very clearly did not make it to top table, so I didn't get to play with a time clock. But when I played War Machine, every event, no matter what table, had a time clock, and I think it was an hour per side. And something that I kind of had to come to terms with was that other people will not be as lenient with what they let the opponent do on their time. So some people would like click immediately over to your time clock as soon as you had to roll a dice. And which is, I guess, in theory, fine, because you're kind of rolling dice, like you're rolling saves or whatever on someone else's turn, but they click over to it to kind of eat away at your time. And I think it's important, if you're running on a time clock, to establish what things are going to be done on the what person's time before the game starts. Because different people have different preferences, and if the TO hasn't specified, then it can be good to discuss that with the other person. So that way you both know going in, if you're rolling saves, it's clicking over to the other person. And maybe Dakotah, since and G, since you guys TO events, you can confirm, generally, if you get time clocked in kill team, if you run out of time, the game still continues as normal, correct?
Yes.
So there's Travis from the Brooklyn Rats, he has a time bank system where if you don't have enough time in your bank at the end of the game, it's very confusing. If you don't have enough time at the end of your bank, then the game concludes. And if the other person does, then like the game ends and they get victory points. I'm not really sure. How it works in 40K and how it works in my kill team packet and all of our events is that when you run out of time, you are only allowed to make, to score passively, roll saves, and make defensive fight actions. And that's about it. But yeah. and then the other person can continue until their time is done.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And generally, I don't usually tell people to use time clocks except on stream, and that's only because we have to stay to a time limit. And so having the
like
time
a football
clock,
game,
helps us keep, in order. We don't have overtime, so like, once this is over, I got to get the next round in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's generally why we use the time clock on there. And
well, the other thing is with time clocks is that people like time clocks scare people because there's a time ticking down in front of them.
Yeah.
the thing that you have to remember is that no matter what, even if it's in front of you or not, you're still on a clock.
Right.
The time is still clicking down.
Yeah, you have a set amount of time in the round anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have had opponents either like run out the game on me before or specifically click over to me enough that I've just run out of time. Which
isn't that the most frustrating? It is frustrating.
It's very frustrating, but I try to take that as a lesson to play the game faster. Which sometimes you'll overthink a move or overthink a turn, and I'll recognize like, hey, I'm actively time clocking myself right now. Like I'm running out of time, and my opponent wants to take their turn as well. So I'll just try and blast forward and take the turn if I'm taking too long. Just kind of take it as a learning experience.
And if you're a slower player, maybe you shouldn't play Pathfinders or Veterans. Maybe you should play
that is a very fair point.
Custodes or Space Marines.
Intercession and Legionnaires are good. Except maybe Phobos. It might take a little more thinking. That one takes a little more but you probably still can do it in the time. But I want to just make a note about time clocks. In the VODs we have for the SoCal Open, there were many examples of players saying, take some of my time, like we were discussing that on yours, even though it was my turn. So that's very sportsmanlike with the clock.
Oh yeah.
Going like, that's absolutely okay. Like I'm not going to just let you run out of time. Like I'm aware we're both conscious we were using it on your turn when it wasn't your turn. And correct. I think that's wonderful because, you're not trying to use the clock as a weapon. It's again, it was there as a tool for me as being in charge of the recording so that I could be on time. And,
so Aidan, what you're saying, and G, what you're saying is very similar to in our rules for time clocks. It's called weaponizing the clock, right? Mm-hmm. Clicking the clock to the opponent unannounced or during a distraction so they don't notice, or taking actions in parallel with your opponent on their time to perform your actions during their time, or noticing an inappropriately running clock and failing to announce or take corrective action. So what they were doing is that they noticed that it was running down on their time, and so they let the other person use some of their time, right? So like that is the corrective action of what should happen, right?
Right, and it happened every match. There was always someone who's like, "Oh man, we were running it on mine. It should have been here. Or it was running on yours, but it should have been mine." And that's awesome. That's great. That's great that people are willing to do that because you're like you mentioned in War Machine, they might have been like, "Nah, man, that was on your time. It's your fault for not clicking it." Because I've seen that happen too, and that's awful. Like,
I think the most feels bad part that I ran out of time is in Kill Team. You don't have to fight if you get charged, right? So I was down to like 30 seconds left, and this Blood Angels player charged me with his captain. And he fought me, and I was like, "No, okay, I'm just not going to fight." And they're like, "No, you have to roll. You have to fight."
Brutal.
And it was already ticking down because that was the rules of ninth, right? So then I had to roll my dice, and I had to make my saves. And he was clicking it back to me because when you get lower, people start clicking it a little bit more often, right?
Absolutely.
Because you got to not run out of time, and they're trying to make you run out of time. It is what it is. I should never have been in that spot in the first place. I just played too long, took too long on my turns. So like I took it as a learning because I was like, dang, that sucks that, I was expecting to like at least be able to move to like these two spots and try to get some points. But in the end, I just had to sit there. So it is what it is. But like, I also took it with grace, and I was pissed. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it feels terrible to get time clocked. It feels horrible.
Yeah, it does. But in the end, I took it as a very positive thinking, positive application, right? Rather than me being like, whatever. I was not trying to make excuses for my own actions. But I think that goes back into sportsmanship, is that you take a lot of responsibility for your own actions, right? Because there's been more than one occasion that I would say that I think that people blame their opponents or don't blame themselves or take their enough responsibility for their own actions in Kill Team. I think it's a lot easier to blame others for your own mistakes. It's a lot easier to blame your dice too. Like, yeah, sometimes you can, it's actively your dice, sometimes it is, but in the end, like if you're playing well enough, you don't have to depend on your rolls. Right. So like, again, at Nova, I was playing so dang good my first day that I felt like I could have rolled all ones a couple of times and I would have still won, like there is like a play beyond dice, but yeah, it's funner to blame your dice or to blame the emperor,
And you know what's fun about blaming dice is like that's a way to break tension if your opponent feels, because there's an opposite angle in sportsmanship when you're doing so hot. And I think we already kind of covered this, but I want to bring it up again. When you're doing so hot and you feel bad for just playing the game strategically well, you as an opponent, if you notice that your opponent is like, they're feeling bad for winning, you can break the tension going, you know what? It happens sometimes, like that's the way the game works. And you don't want them to feel bad either. Cause then you still have bad sportsmanship in a way. Well, not bad, but like that's a good way to get sportsmanship even when you're losing, losing gracefully is important. And that's one way to help.
I think another clear indication of poor sportsmanship is being disrespectful to your opponent.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. So, like insecurity, when I was dealing with drunk people all the time, right? Like you have to give respect to get respect, right? So a lot of times, like you try to give them as much respect as you can. Sometimes they're too far gone. Sometimes they don't care. Right. But like in this, you could say the same thing. Like if somebody's too far upset, it doesn't matter how much respect you can give them. But like, we always want to respect other people's feelings, because in the end, like speaking of LVO, that's the most, the tournament that all of us can attend and can go, because not everyone's allowed to go to the Warhammer, the World Championships of Warhammer.
What was the name we were supposed to call it now?
It's called WCW. So it's the World Championships of Warhammer.
Featuring Kill Team.
So
it's not a mainstay.
That is not being streamed.
Shout out to Mr. Cyrac for he said he would try to record it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is dope. Thanks, brother. So like at LVO, like, people are going to go there and they're going to spend, anywhere between $200 to probably $2,000, not including gambling, not including food, but that's to like stay there. That's to play the game for 3 days, bringing family members or loved ones to, enjoy yourself with. So like these people are paying a lot of money to be there. So make sure that you respect your opponents, and don't disenfranchise them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's super important to know that, because you've spent money to go to the tournament, and you don't want to feel like it's wasted, but your opponent has done the same. And you don't want to in any way make them feel like they're like actively wasting what for a lot of people is like a weekend away, that can be kind of hard to get. So you don't want to make them feel like they've in any way wasted it or like burned their weekend or one of their only weekends off.
Yeah, because it's you got to plan that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Maybe they had to travel. Some people travel. Like for AVTT, people travel from across the country. Like I only had to drive 2 hours, but some people flew across the country. So I'm like, you have to respect that these people, frankly, put a lot more travel in, and a lot more money as well.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that, not enough people think about is when you go to the tournament. I've done this before. Like you thinking about yourself, you want to go, you want to win, you want to, be the victor. But sometimes you got to take a step back and you got to think like these people also spent a lot of money, or they spent a lot of resources to get to this spot too, right? So I think that's the biggest thing about sportsmanship is that, you can still play the game to a high level, but like to make sure that both players walk away not upset is probably one of the most important things. And there's a lot of ways to get to that upset land, right? Like I've dealt with in the past people rolling dice behind walls and changing results. I've dealt with people not knowing rules and misplaying rules intentionally, right? And then if I know their rules better than them, then I can be like, actually, that's not how the Emperor's Champion works. This is how the Emperor's Champion works. You don't get 6 attacks; you only get 4 attacks. So there's a lot of things that go on. And then like to actively try and cheat somebody is also not good. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that cheating doesn't happen in Kill Team, right? I'm not going to blow smoke up anyone's ass. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've dealt with it, and we've taken corrective action towards the players that have done it. Please don't make it so that you're the next one that we have to actively watch or deal with if you're thinking about pulling some shady shit. It's not a fun experience for me. It's not a fun experience for your opponents. Especially when it's emblazoned on, YouTube forevermore or other areas, right? So like poor sportsmanship includes so much stuff, right? It includes poor behavior. It includes, being disrespectful. It includes like misplaying rules. Now that's such a fine line between misplaying rules intentionally and just like not knowing the game enough, which is okay. It's just like, just make sure that you're not making the same mistakes over and over. You have to learn, right? Like when you go to a tournament, you have to know, you have to learn. It's the same thing with narrative. I think that I've encountered more people cheating in game stores than I have at a tournament. Because like winning meant so much, right? Or you hear stories about people who will do anything to win at their local game store, and then they go to a big tournament and then accuse other people of cheating when they don't win because they were the big fish in their pond. You know what I mean? Like that has happened, at a recent tournament as well. So like there are other things to keep in mind about your behavior and other people's behavior and how you deal with those. Now, I know we've talked a couple times about like how to deal with that type of behavior, but what are the other tactics or interpersonal communication tactics that you guys particularly use with dealing with these hard? I know that we've just glanced over it, but I feel like there's more to be said. Do you guys have anything else to say about how you kind of diffuse situations? Has anyone gotten angry in your games and you guys are able to diffuse it in a certain way? Because these small things will help other people.
Yeah, I had an instance of really good sportsmanship on behalf of one of my opponents, where we got into a bit of a rules discrepancy, and it was and I got to shout him out. It was Sam from Bats, where he was playing Felgor Ravagers, and I was playing Hand of the Archon, and we got into a discussion about the like Cabalite banner equipment that the leader of the Hand of the Archon team can take. That it buffs up the APL of every Hand of the Archon operative within 3 inches. And Sam wanted to double check the rule, and he wanted to take it over to you, Dakotah, the TO. And I thought that was an instance where it was very important to like let my opponent read through all of the rules to double check with the TO, because it wasn't something he'd ever seen before. And I didn't want to be very adamant, like, this is the rule. I've read the rule. Because it was just it's important to make sure your opponent feels comfortable playing against you and that you're not being rude or trying to catch them on rules they maybe don't know. So I have to give a shout out for that very good piece of sportsmanship.
Oh yeah, that rule was really interesting because it's been ruled differently.
Weird rule, right?
Yeah, it's been ruled differently at different events. And like Nova, I think Matt did it that every single model on every single objective within 3 inches got it. Other people are like only one model per objective. And for the way I rule it is that it's all models within one objective marker within 3 inches. So it doesn't apply to 2 in case if there was like they're within 6. But besides the point. No, I remember that one. There was also like some stuff that happened at SoCal where like 2 players were having a really tense game. And I could tell, right? So I had to come up and I just kept making dad joke after dad joke after dad joke and like trying because there's only so much I can do without telling people to like break up and like walk away and come back, you know? So like, and to like go relax, you know? So like I would make a couple dad jokes and eventually both players lightened up and eventually I didn't have to keep coming back to the table, right? But, you know, that doesn't happen all the time. You know, there's been other events where, you know, I wasn't quick enough at seeing interpersonal reactions between people and some players got really upset or end up quitting the tournament because of that. It happened to LVO. It happened to West Coast Championships. It happened at quite a few tournaments where players had such a poor experience that they just leave the competition. Right. And as a player, you should never get to that point. You have to let a TO know because we don't have crystal balls, right? Like we're there, we're around, but like we don't know if you're having a bad time. For instance, I'll give you both a story. So when I was,
here we go.
Yeah, when I was doing security, there was a woman on the rooftop bar. There's a group of women. They looked like they were having an awful time with a few men that were approaching them. And they did not seem to be having a good time whatsoever. And so like I asked one of them, I was like, hey, are you good? You know, and she said no. And I was like, do you want me to ask the guys to move away? She said yes. So I said, cool. So I asked the guys to leave. They did not want to leave. They thought everything was fine. And I said, well, the women have asked you to leave or to not bother them. So I'm here to ask you to like not do that. And in the end, I ended up I gave the guys like an ultimatum. I was like, hey guys, so you guys can either move along or like, I'm going to ask you to leave. And it got to the point where I had to ask them to leave and kicked them out. And it turned out that guy was a lawyer. And then he said that I was racially discriminatory against him and sued the rooftop bar. And the rooftop bar settled and I had to apologize to him. And so I did. But in the end, it was my mistake for going up to somebody that seemed like they were wanting to be in need, right? I didn't get the girl's information or anything like that. That would have cleared everything up. Or any of the staff seeing the altercation would have cleared everything up. Or if my body cam was fully charged, it would have cleared everything up. But the thing is like, I didn't have any of those tools. So it was just my word versus his word. And the point that I'm trying to say is that she did not come to me and ask me for help. Right. So as a TO, I'm not going to interject into a game unless if I see somebody outwardly visibly upset and pissed off and tell people to calm down or forcefully interject, because I would hope that people could figure it out themselves. And if they aren't asking for my help, then I should not interject, because I think that there's a big difference from a TO's perspective on when we should be jumping in getting involved in these players' things. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that TOs should be more actively jumping in, or do you think that I have more of the right approach?
I think you have the more right approach. You are there only to help them when they need it, right? And most of the time, players can resolve it on their own. there's obviously, like you mentioned, there's visible times. Let's say like a group of players are getting really loud. They're starting to yell at each other.
Or at ABTT number 1. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly that. Yeah. When that moment happened,
yeah.
that is warranted. You go in there and you try to de-escalate. Makes perfect sense, right? But in this other case, they will probably figure out how to resolve it themselves. And one of their tools is to call a TO. Right? And so what we're trying to do here, at least what I'm trying to do, is to let people know it's all right to call a TO. That's what we're here for. So I think the way you handle it in that style is a correct choice. Because otherwise you'd have to be policing every single dispute, and there's no way you could do that. And sometimes they don't want that. They don't want the TO there, right? They want to figure it out themselves. Most things will resolve on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a difficult thought. What do you think, Aidan?
I think that's definitely the right approach. I think it takes two people to have an argument, and there's ways to de-escalate a altercation or interaction you may be having, and one of those is certainly calling the TO. But there's ways to, before you even need to call a TO, to kind of de-escalate a situation. I liked what you said, Dakotah, about making a lot of dad jokes. I find that humor can really help break up a tense situation. I find that self-deprecating humor works pretty well as well. If maybe you're kind of like we touched earlier, if you're rolling really well and you can tell your opponent's kind of getting upset about that, you can kind of make fun of yourself a little bit, make fun of your dice. Maybe you can offer to switch out your dice, say these ones are doing a little too hot. I think it's important to kind of recognize how to de-escalate a situation. And then if you can't de-escalate it on your own, that's exactly what the TO is there for.
Yes.
So, moving on to dice, since we're talking about dice, have any of you guys ever played against a player and thought their dice were wrong? Something about them?
Not the dice, but I have had opponents tell me, could you please roll them in this designated area, which I had no problem with. That might have been my fault for not making it easier for them to see. And generally, I like to do the rolls very close to them so they can see it, because I generally think that's this way I'm off the table. Like I used to play D&D with a group of people, and we had one player, they would constantly be rolling the dice and wait for like a good roll, right? And I always told people this story. I might not have told Dakotah, but I'm telling him now. They would roll and wait for a favorable dice roll so that their character would succeed in whatever they're doing. And sure, that could be fine, whatever. It's a game, we're all playing the same thing. But it was just one of those like, man, this is kind of showing your character as a person. If you're cheating in a game where we're all kind of working together, like what does that
I do
say
that in
about
Baldur's Gate, but I'm playing by myself.
Yeah, you're by whatever. You can play, dude, Tony Hawk. I'm using cheat codes on Tony Hawk. Whatever, it's my game, right? But when it's like a group of people, like, what are you saying to them? Like, oh yeah, like I'm fine with cheating even when it's not this,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Or taking that D20 and just rolling it just a tad bit more.
That too, yeah, just a few, because that's what they would do. They'd roll it till they got something they liked, and they go, "That's my roll," right? And it was just one of those like annoying things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've dealt with this on a couple occasions where somebody thinks that my dice were too hot or their dice were too hot, and typically I'm just like, "Hey, man, I'm going to use your dice." And if they say no, then it's like, okay, then we can both use my dice. And if they say no, then we can call it TO.
Yep.
Or when my dice were rolling really, really well, and I'm like, hey man, do you want to use my dice? And they're like, yeah, I'll use your dice. And they roll like all ones. And it's like, hey, that was the Emperor. Sorry. The Emperor protects me, not you. Remember that. Okay. Yeah. So like, or if I'm playing Eldar, I'll usually say like, well, Eldred told me to say that. He knew you were going to roll all ones. So sorry, but
it's the might of the craft world. Yeah,
exactly. So like, that's just a tip for anyone out there. If you feel like you're like, cause like socially, it's really hard to be like, man, this guy's just rolling so good. man, this is happening to me. Like that's one of the other main things that I get as a TO is people are super upset by either running out of time or they blame their opponent's dice. They're like, they're rolling so good. And then I'm like, then use their dice. It's that easy. If you think that they're loaded or you think they're busted, use their dice. And if they're busted, then they're busted for both players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that I feel like should dissuade a lot of negative feelings, because this game is all this podcast has also turned into a way to dissuade negative feelings rather than just sportsmanship. Because that is what sportsmanship is how do we make other players have a good time?
Yes.
I just knocked over my plastic bottle by gesturing so wide. Yeah. So do you guys have any other tips or tricks about how to make your, other than humor, other than gifts, other than, jokes, or explaining the gotchas and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I find telling people, or usually asking them, like, is there anything you'd like me to explain? Or would you like me to give you a brief rundown of everything here? To let them kind of know that you could trust me. I'm not going to cheat you here. This is everything we're using. Mm-hmm. Everything on all the cards on the table. You can see everything. That's my whole plan. And hopefully they will reciprocate the actions I do and will do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, G, is if you come into a game super cocky, a lot of times the other person's going to be the exact same way back. Or if you come into a game and you're very arrogant, or you're very, any other way, like however you come into the game, whatever energy you bring in, a lot of times your opponent is just going to reflect that right back to you. So it's good to come in at least open and with that in mind. That's a great tip, G.
Very good tip. Yeah, I think if oftentimes, and you can have something where your opponent is maybe projecting that energy into you, and you can kind of flip the script on them almost, and start to kind of cut loose, have a little more fun. Maybe you experiment and try something that you didn't try before in previous rounds, and your opponent can then sometimes tell that you're kind of here to have fun, to have a good time, and they then start to play along with you a little, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm. Like one of the main negatives that I received about my play at Nova was that some of the people that I played thought that I was like overly arrogant or overly cocky when I was playing. And then halfway through the game, right, it put them on edge. Halfway through the game, they realize it's just that I know vet guards super, super well. So I know exactly where I'm going to put them and where I'm going to place them and what I'm going to do with those models, rather than me being like arrogant or cocky. Cause I mean, sometimes I have been, I have my moments of being arrogant or cocky, I'm not going to lie. It is something that I actively try to curb on occasion. But yeah, I think that one of the other things is witnessing or knowing what your faults are as a player or as a human, and actively trying to work against those faults or those things. Knowing that sometimes bad sportsmanship is that you are just a mat, you're just a rug, and you let people walk on you, right? Like sometimes that, and sometimes to be a better person for the game is to not let somebody treat you as a doormat, right? Like sometimes you have to stick up for yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes, especially if somebody comes in with a really dominant personality, right? So like not letting someone do that and letting them, do whatever they want is just as important for you as it is for them, to make sure that you both have a good experience. Sometimes, like for me, coming in maybe too cocky or too arrogant, right, during certain matchups, can be something that I know that sometimes I'll have to work on, at least not project that towards my opponent, even if I am feeling confident, or maybe it's just my manner, right? It's just like kind of knowing that kind of thing about you, knowing what your faults are and trying to fix those faults before you project that to your opponent. Is a tip that I will say. One of the things that I think is also super important about sportsmanship is that as Kill Team is growing, because it is growing, it's growing quite a lot. It's really important to maintain sportsmanship because we don't want to get the same stereotype of 40K, right? You found that funny, Aidan. Do you want to share?
I just liked the image there. I think that is a good thing to keep in mind. Of being, as the game gets bigger, more people are going to come play the game. And I was relatively new to this game recently, and it was a very welcoming community. All the events I went to, it was one piece of sportsmanship I really appreciate is when I'm playing against someone who's much better than me, which happens a lot. It's very nice when after the game I can ask, hey, do you have any tips? And they can give me some genuine feedback that isn't just, oh man, you did not play this particularly well, but just give some actual good feedback. Like, hey, you misplayed this operative, or this operative is better doing X, Y, and Z, or maybe you shouldn't ever take it's the dark light weapon that the Drukhari have, the Dark Lance. Yeah, because it's sick, but it doesn't do a ton in a lot of games, which is unfortunate because I love it. It's like the most absurd looking gun. But yeah, it's really good to get actual feedback. So if you're super like a very good player and you play on a very high level, it could be very welcoming to new players to get actual like points of feedback.
And some players don't want any feedback. They just want.
Some don't.
Yeah. So just be aware, if somebody does or if somebody doesn't, you can always ask, be like, hey, do you want any feedback? No, I'm good. All right, cool. Or yeah, cool. But yeah, we want to make sure that we don't get the same, like at squad games events, we really push sportsmanship because ultimately you had great times at our events. That means you're probably going to come back to more, right? And ultimately, if we want Kill Team to continue to grow, we don't want to get those negative experiences from players because we all really like this game. So we all want this game to continue growing. So that all means that we need to continue to be kind and nice to each other because it doesn't always happen where everyone is kind and nice, right? And that is still a part of the game. That is a part of competitive, is like, you should know going in that not everyone is going to be nice. You might have a 1 in 25 chance that you might get somebody who's not super nice. And the main thing is to realize, be like, hey, not everything is going to be like that. Not every interaction is going to happen like that. So let's just move on to the next round and try to put that person behind me and, forget about it. Turn the other cheek, some might say.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, it's what, one game out of 4. Still,
if that.
Yeah, if that. If it's if you're playing 4 games on like just a 1-day tournament, but if it's like a 7-day or 7-game 2-day tournament, it's 1 out of 7 games, and then you can be like, well, that's fine. I'll just have a good time with the rest of my games. It's no worries.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about sportsmanship before we start talking about either other stuff or giving our shout outs?
I think we got it pretty good.
Cool. So I'll give a couple shout outs, and I want to talk about hobby because Aidan is a hobby madman.
Okay.
Oh, don't say okay. Don't try to be
so modest.
Okay, Mr. I printed too many 3D printed things. I'm going to paint them all to a really nice degree and give them away as tokens and gifts.
I remember because we had to grade his painting, and I was saying like, I think this is one of the best painted things here this weekend.
That was
so
actively blushing right now. You have to stop.
It was between you and Jonathan Marquis. He had a wonderful Gellerpox.
Oh man, that was a sick. He had the lights and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so sick.
That was a hard one.
Huge shout out.
Yeah, and
we even had to get a guest commission
guest
painter.
judge.
Guest judge.
Really?
Who just to help us break the tie.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's specifically because like Jonathan's Gellerpox, Geller Juice, Beetlejuice themed Gellerpox were so impressive with the display and everything like that. It ended up coming down to how much more technique was put in. So it was super close, but it was a well-deserved win. But we'll get to that in a second. Firstly, I want to shout out a few things. Firstly, Lester's Workshop is having a really big Black Friday sale. If you go to lestersworkshop.com and you click on the shop, you can see everything that's on sale. We have an essentials kit that we've never offered before. So it comes with like a 6-inch by 1-inch gauge. It comes with 3 acrylic barriers and a 3-inch by 2-inch. It's like a different type of measuring tool. We have some pre-order mats that no one's ever seen before, which are pretty cool that we should be getting delivered in January, and we'll start shipping those out or giving them to people at LVO. The first time my terrain has ever been on sale, and there's like $75 off the Necro Machina and the Repentant Outpost. And then we also have 2 custom Squad Games colors that they're fluorescent orange and fluorescent green. And those are also on sale for half off what I normally charge. So if you guys are interested in picking up any of our stuff, make sure you pick them up because they will be gone on November 25th, the day after Black Friday ends. So go ahead and pick those up. And then finally, my last shout out would be to, I have a family member who wrote a book. If any of you guys are avid book readers, or I don't think it's on tape yet, but my wife's sister, Katie, has written a book. Her pen name is KP Lee, and she wrote a book called Alone. If any of you guys want to check that out, I'm sure that her family would be immensely grateful, as my wife really enjoyed the book. So those are my shout outs for this week.
Very nice. Mr. Aidan, do you have any shout outs you want to do?
I'll give a shout out, I guess, to my 3 people I play Kill Team with the most. I'll give it out to Andrew and Connor and Elijah. Love you, boys.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to the boys.
To the boys.
To the goons, more accurately.
I guess I'll go with my shout outs real quick. I'll do my whole thing. First I want to thank Mr. Alex. This weekend he and I played 40K together. And what do we have at the game store we went to? Justinian was there. So
what?
Yeah.
What
so
game store? Why didn't you tell me? I was in Texas and you didn't tell me?
Yeah, you were in Texas. What am I supposed to do?
Bastard.
Send you a message. So much for sportsmanship.
A red alert.
You can text Alex right now.
What game store?
Odyssey.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, they have hella Justine right now.
Good for them.
And anyway, so we gambled, and I had told them ahead of time, like, I'm only looking for the captain. That's it. I collect Primaris captains, and that captain happens to be a Primaris one, even though they don't call it that anymore in 40K. It still is a Primaris captain, and he was cool enough that when he pulled it, he traded it with the one that I got. So I want to shout that out first.
Alex?
Yep.
What a fucking G.
What a fucking pro, man. There you go. Sportsmanship on that day.
We love Alex.
And he loves the vulture you gave him. He still uses it to this day for objectives.
Hell yeah. All right. Sick.
Yeah. He doesn't forget. I've seen him use it multiple times now.
Very good.
I'm pretty sure in every single Inquisition game he's used it that I know of.
That's his favorite thing to take. Mm-hmm. And now to go on to the rest of the shout outs. We are affiliated with FLG. So if you're in the market for new box sets, secondhand models, or attending one of their events,
like LVO,
like the LVO coming up, which we will have Links in the description to use our affiliate link, which gives us a kickback here and helps us do more things in terms of content for you and for future events. Then we'd also like to shout out Goblin's Hut. So if you're looking to step up any of your hobby game or want to get some cool effects for any of the models you're working on, check out their website. I recommend the Dirty Down. It's a really cool effect. Then you can use our code SQUAD10 at checkout. That's SQUAD10, SQUAD10 at checkout. Gives us a little bit of a kickback. And lastly, I want to thank our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting us and what we do. And if you're considering becoming a patron, we have links in the description. And regardless, even if you're just listening, we really appreciate it. And if you're looking for me, I'm on Instagram at wargaming_studios. Again, that's wargaming_studios on Instagram. Or you can just join the Discord at the Squad Games Discord. And you can talk to us there. We're usually pretty active, and the community's pretty active too. That's my bit. Yeah, so that was this episode.
Well, we're not done yet.
Yeah, we're not, but I just wanted to say that.
Oh, okay. And that's fair. That's fair. Aidan, Hobby Track on Luster's Workshop. I don't know if you follow it at all. lustersworkshop.com. It's this awesome website that has a bunch of Kill Team stuff on it. Great Black Friday
very
sale.
good products. Yes.
Yeah, it has a great podcast on there called the Squad Games Podcast.
We should listen to that for sure.
Yeah. There's also the Hobby Track, which is fully updated. And you currently, my friend, are at 4 points behind first place in second.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Holy cow, that's crazy.
You were in first until the West Coast Championships, and James Robinson passed you. But you have two lower scores that can be replaced with higher scores. So you still have plenty of room to grow, my friend. And I think those two lower scores were from when you didn't have I think they were from your San Diego events when I don't think you had display bases. I didn't judge those events.
That would make sense.
Yeah. So LVO should be pretty big for you, my friend. And if you go to any other, I think the Mary Mayhem up in, I don't know if you're going to go to that. Me and G are, but it's an extra 3-hour drive for you. Mary Mayhem up in like Sacramento. We're going to go to that. I think that's going to have it. So, but yeah, I mean, you're right there. Real close to the top, brother. It's
that
gonna be exciting.
Crazy. That's nuts. I didn't even know that. Dang.
Yeah.
Holy
and
cow.
if you scroll down on that Hobby Track page, you'll see Emmanuel won the year before, and you can see how big that trophy is compared to him.
My God.
And then I think FLG also donated a giant thing of airbrush paint from the Army Painter for the winner. So hopefully we can get another big thing of paint for the winner as well. But you're pretty close, so I'm glad you're going to LVO because that's probably where it's going to be decided. If anyone out there wants to do Hobby Track, please talk to your local TOs and have them reach out to me. We're actively making it an easier system to input everything. But it's quite a fun thing to do, and we're trying to get as many people involved so that we can prove to Games Workshop that we deserve Hobby Track on the ITC website, not just on lustersworkshop.com. I think we currently are at 126 people participating out of, I think last year we had 101, and we haven't even done LVO yet. So it's quite exciting, to say the least.
Let's rank those numbers up, people.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, and this year we have way more points and more people actively participating in the Hobby Track than we did last year. But what made you decide to do like hobby bases and stuff? Because you're an excellent planer, Aidan.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That is a good question. A few years ago, I really tried to step up my painting game. I run a it's technically a Pathfinder campaign, but basically a D&D campaign online. And I decided, because I'm the GM, so I decided I wanted to paint up, like, I've always loved converting up miniatures. So I wanted to convert up and paint all of the bosses that my players face in that campaign, and then mail them out to them as trophies for when they like deal the finishing blow on a boss, or whoever like does the best in the fight. They can all vote and see who gets the trophy. And I was like,
how many people are trying to join your campaigns now? You just told your secret. Everyone's going to be blasting you on the Squad Games Discord. Hey, dude, let me know when you're running the next campaign. You know?
Yeah, that's what I've tried to do. And I was like, well, if I'm going to hand these out, like I have to. I was like, I can't just hand out like a model that I'm not super proud of. So I really tried to step up my painting game. And it's just I've always been a very big fan of hobby, like the hobby bases, or like an army base where everything slots in perfectly. There's just something that just looks very satisfying to me about that. So I was like, well, it's something I'll give a shot with, especially if I have like an image in mind. And it looks good. It's a great way to store your models with little magnets in them, have them like locked into the base. And it's a fun exercise too, to try and get the bases to match the area that's around them. So for LVO, I'm making a Hearthkin Salvagers team right now that they're Chaos Dwarves. So I've sculpted all the stupid hats that these guys have on them and like old Warhammer Fantasy. So I'm making like a underground mine shaft style base for that, which should be pretty cool. But yeah, it's just fun to see them all slot into place. I think that's honestly the best I could say about it. It just looks cool.
It absolutely does look cool. I'm 100% in agreement. So do you typically go with like epic basing and using their 3D printed stuff, or do you sculpt custom elements on bases, or like what's your typical go-to?
It's a bit of both. I have a kind of older Anycubic Photon Mono that's like 3 or 4 years old. And that thing is a workhorse. I have ruined that thing and gotten so much resin stuff all over it, but it still gets the job done. And Epic Basing I really like. They have a lot of really cool stuff. But I also, I guess if I give a shout out, a creator I really like is, I think it's just one guy. His name is Imitation of Life Miniatures. And he's like a little boutique STL file like shop. But he comes out with some great, he has some great like wasteland style bases. And I tend to lean on those pretty heavily because they're little like base toppers and stuff, and they fit really well on any size of base. And then the rest of it, I either sculpt out of plasticard or air dry clay. With air dry clay though, it can get pretty heavy. So you have to put like tin foil in the middle. It can crack too. Yeah. If it's too big. So I usually fill it with tin foil and then use a lot of water and a thin layer on the outside. Otherwise, like you're going to be carrying around, 5 pounds of air dry clay, and you're going to drop that and it's going to shatter. And it's going to absolutely ruin your day.
Yeah. I use Sculptamold a lot. And sometimes, plaster of Paris in those rock molds from Scenic Space, Woodland Scenics. For little cliff ledges and that sort of stuff. I also really like what's that grass called? I'm trying to remember the name of this website. Gamers Grass?
Gamers Grass.
Gamers Grass.
Yeah, Gamers Grass is cool.
Oh, yeah. Those guys are great. Yeah, those are fantastic. The little tufts are lovely.
Gamers Grass I use quite a lot of too. Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag wish. No, I really like their laser plants as well. I used them for a Necron commission that I did recently, and they came out really, really nice because the Necrons were like trudging through the jungle. Anything that wasn't Necron, anything that wasn't Necron metal was like super corroded and rusted. But yeah, their laser plants are super, super nice. You do have to put a little bit of paint along the edges because obviously they're they're paper.
Mm-hmm.
But and also gluing them together is a bit of a pain in the ass, but they fucking work. They work wonderfully. So big fan of Gamer's Grass as well. G, do you have any because you're also an amazing painter. I don't think enough people tell you that enough, G. Your Castricans are almost done, right?
They're half done, which just means I have to decide to actually paint during the week to do it. I will get it done because that's Ben already, he's there at the end. We got until I think it was January. We said
fucking Ben.
Yeah, Ben's already got it. It's freaking Ben Campbell.
Yeah.
So I gotta at least be done with that. If I can't do that by the end of January, I don't know what I'm doing. If I can't paint 5 models by that time,
Yeah, you got a month and a half, G. I have seen you paint really fast, and I've also seen you paint very slow.
Insanely slow. In terms of what you wanted tips, right? What'd you want? What'd you need?
Well,
hobby stuff.
Yeah, what hobby stuff do you look at? When you're doing basing or what is the thing that you're kind of go to?
Ooh, regardless of what people say, I use that GW technical paint a lot as a lot of starting points. I love using my little not sponges, my spatulas that I have for painting to move it around nicely. And a big thing for mine was using the Green Stuff World, their leaf punch out. I would get petrified leaves and I would cure them in a type of what's this stuff called? PVA mixed with some water to get them kind of like a coating over them, and you could punch them out, And so this way they could survive.
Oh man,
and
that's sick.
Yeah, and the only thing is they're a little bit bigger leaves than I'd like for the scale, but when you kind of put them in a pile, you don't really notice. That's one I really like doing, and I like taking twigs from trees, cleaning them, making sure they're dry and clean. It's important to do that, and also coating them in PVA. So that way they don't deteriorate, and using that as little logs and stuff that you cut up. That's pretty cool. And Gamer's Grass has some cool colors. When I did some Legion stuff for people, they'd want the purple blue stuff, and that's where I got to experiment with that, and it's really cool.
Yeah. For leaves and stuff, I typically use the brown natural coffee filters.
Mm-hmm.
Punch it out with the little geek gaming scenic stuff, and then I'll use contrast and paint the leaves red, or what I assume to be is red. If Bow Red is actually red, then it's or Blood Angel's red is actually red, then I guess they'd be red.
Dakotah, are you colorblind too?
Yes.
Oh my god!
So what
too,
color are Cool Ranch Doritos?
Oh
guys?
yeah, you're fucking colorblind.
100%, absolutely. No way. Oh, here we go.
We're gonna settle this shit right now. Hold on. Are you ready, G? Watch this.
Google Cool Ranch Doritos.
Yeah,
Cool Ranch Doritos. All right, they got to be blue. They got to be blue.
Tell me what colors you see on the chip.
Oh, the chip?
Yeah, tell me what color you see on the chip.
The chip itself.
Yeah, take a close look.
Oh, gee, I've never thought about this in my entire life. This is hurting me.
I'm gonna pull it up too.
No,
I'm gonna put it.
I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna send it to you guys. That way.
All right, this is going to Discord.
This is unbelievable.
Let's all look at it.
All right, here we go.
A good one, not a bad one.
G, you have to tell me if this is. You have to audit this or not. All right, can you see in the Discord?
Even I can't see this. Hold on, let me find one.
I got it. I see it.
All right, this one.
Oh boy,
I'm
gonna get you another one because I can't see that one.
Okay.
All right. In the picture you sent me, it looks like you just sent me regular chips or something.
Me? The one I sent you?
Yeah, it looks like regular chips.
I will be honest.
Maybe you're colorblind.
Oh, okay.
G, maybe you're colorblind.
No, I'm not because I'm looking at the one that has the colors. It looks Christmassy. This one is coated the hell.
Oh, that is a zesty chip.
That chip looks delicious.
Now, my mouth is
Aidan,
watering. Okay,
now, Aidan,
okay.
The question to you, my friend, is there any green or red sparkles things on this chip, or is it just all salt and pepper looking stuff?
I'm going to be 100 with you. The chip itself is orange, but I I am seeing a little bit of green in there.
Ooh.
And I am very red-green colorblind, so I could be very wrong on that.
So what G claims, and I've talked to my other colorblind friend Ronnie. There is no red and there is no green. It is just strictly black pepper.
Kidding me.
There's no green on this chip whatsoever.
This can't be real. What?
Look at it. Yeah, they say these motherfuckers say there are red and green color flakes on this all over, like fucking Christmas. Now here's the other one. You saw Captain Marvel, right? The original movie, Captain Marvel.
I did see the original Captain Marvel movie. Yes, it's been a little bit.
Okay, what color was her suit? Like her original suit before she became Captain Marvel. Do you remember?
Her original suit before she became Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Let's just see if I can Google that.
I'm gonna see if I can pull it up.
Let's see.
Okay, here.
Okay. It's going in.
Okay, it's going in. All right.
This is incomprehensible. I couldn't tell you what color this is. I have no idea. What? Yeah. I couldn't. It's like I couldn't possibly tell you.
So what they say, I can see a tad bit of green on her chest. Okay, and in this particular photo.
Okay.
Apparently, this is green as fuck.
No.
Okay.
There's no way. It's way more.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's like a steel gray color. Okay, dude. I walked into Ronnie's. So Ronnie had a wedding.
It's like gunmetal.
Yeah, exactly. 100% gunmetal. I walked into Ronnie's bathroom today. So I went to Texas this weekend and had a great time in Texas. Ronnie got married. I walked in and I looked at his walls and I see his wife is fucking with him hard. Cause I'm like, these are gray. I guarantee you they're not gray. So I asked my wife, I was like, hey, why do you like the color so much in her bathroom, Saya? She's like, oh, it's mauve. I was like, no, it's a horrible gray. Mm-hmm. It's a horrible gray color. And then apparently I can't see mauve either. Right. It's my most hated color in the universe.
Is mauve?
Mauve is like a gray piece of shit.
I'm out. I can't see purple, so I'm out. That was done. I was done. I looked up and said it's a pale purple. I'm out.
It's a pale purple? The fuck?
That's what they said. No. Is it not?
What? No, that should be correct.
What? Google says a pale purple color. This does not look pale purple.
This is fucking wild. I thought
this isn't pale purple. This is gray.
Yeah.
Can you read these images? One of them I feel like you could read. Could you read these images I just sent?
Oh, no.
I can read one. That says, I hate being colorblind.
That one's easy. I want to
see the other one.
That one. The second one, nothing.
There's absolutely nothing in it.
Absolutely nothing. I feel like
just a bunch of dots. All right. Yeah. So I walk into his other room and I see another gray wall and I was like, I bet you this isn't gray. And I was like, what color is that? So she's like, it's green. I was like, Ronnie, are you aware that you have a green and a pink and apparently it's fucking purple wall in your house? And he was like, no. And he was like, that's gray and that's gray. And I was like, that's right.
Man.
Yeah. You will get made fun of because of this. I have been made fun of.
I already do get made fun of.
Yeah. That we can't see red and green flakes on Cool Ranch Dorito chips. I'm going to tell you that I have found my third G, and the three people all agree on one thing. That just means that's how Flat Earth was created, right?
Yes. I mean, like, it's okay to be wrong, with sportsmanship.
I think you're outnumbered, G. You've been overruled.
You have been overruled, G.
I have. I don't have any non-colorblind people here to defend me. and listeners can't really help because
they can be shouting at the top of their lungs.
Good.
But I will never hear them unless if they get on the Discord and tell us how wrong we are.
Please do so. Link in description.
Good God. Dakotah, do you only buy paints that say the color on it? Because that's what I do. If it's like Nurgle's Blessing, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to buy the paint.
I will if it's in a recipe. So I watch a lot of painting videos I watch a lot of painting videos, and there's like specific colors that I can see really well, or specific like variations. Like P3 makes 2 really good greens: Izonian green and Necrotic green.
Yeah, those are both
green.
Great.
Those are both amazing, and they look great, at least to me, next to each other. But like the hardest part is when you're commission painter, like as a commission painter, they're like, hey, I want a green camo cloak and I want his armor to be pink. And I'm like, okay, what? This happened recently. I'm like, what green looks good with this pink? I have no idea. So I had to like do like every green that I owned and do splotch tests and then send pictures to my wife and pictures to Giacomo. And then when I painted it with the wrong greens.
Oh no! Disaster!
I remember that.
Yeah, and I sent pictures, and they're like, "Yo, did you use the right greens?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they're like, "No, you didn't," because I used the Cabalite stuff instead of like the Dark Angel stuff. And then I had to repaint the fucking camo cloak, and I swear to God, it was a nightmare. Because it's like, all right, I know like my 3 greens, like these are the things that I'm going to paint green. These are the things that I'm going to paint red. I don't deviate much in this general area because I used to paint my Eldar with brown, like scrag brown shoulder pads. And then I would highlight the edges with like a blood red and then like an orange. And to me, that turned it red.
Yeah.
Yeah. And absolutely. And then like everyone was like, why did you paint a brown shoulder pad with red highlights? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? How do you know it's brown?
I've been in the same boat. Absolutely.
And yeah. So, and I didn't know that I was colorblind until I was in college. So like my teacher was like, why can't you mix skin color? Like this is super easy from primaries. And I was like, I don't know, because like I painted my girlfriend and she was just violet. And I was like, I can't get the right combination of colors. I'm not allowed to use white. So how do I make skin color this seemingly impossible? And she's like, I think you're colorblind. Go see a doctor. Yeah.
And you did.
I did. What is your biggest colorblind moment other than like traffic lights? I know what's what on the traffic. I can see the colors of a traffic light.
Yeah, I can see the colors of the traffic light. Biggest colorblind moment. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that the colors are really not my strong suit. I can't see purple. Just like does not exist, which is a shame because I like a lot of colors that are purple adjacent, and I like mixing purple into things because it can change a color in a good way. But I remember I think it was my junior year of high school, I just got destroyed by my art teacher because I painted, we were painting like a car or something like that. And I painted the wheels like a dark purple, not knowing that it was a dark purple because I just grabbed the bottle and was like, yeah, this has to be black for the wheels. And I highlighted them up with the dark purple. And he was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? This is so bad. Like, this is horrible. This is wrong. It's the wrong color. And I was like, oh, sorry, I'm colorblind. Like I fully thought this was black. And he was like, no, that's not how it works. Black isn't a color. It's a shade. You can't get it wrong. And I was like, but I did get it wrong. Clearly I just got it wrong. I would say, I think back on that a lot, and it makes me really second guess what my black paint is at all times. So I only own the one black paint so that I know which one it is. I use, and this might be a little heretical, I use Deco Art Americana Craft black paint.
Oh,
it's got a nice matte finish and it's dirt cheap. And it mixes really well. And I've never had any complaints. And I know it's my black paint because it's the only one in an enormous Michael's Craft Store bottle that sits not at the same place as the rest of my paints.
G, do you have a favorite black?
No, I'm a little boring. I'll use Abaddon black and I'll use Vallejo black.
I also like Vallejo black, and I really like the contrast blacks.
So
yeah, black.
I do like black contrast paint. The Army Painter Speed Paint Black is also really nice. I like
it. Doesn't reactivate.
Sometimes it reactivates. Sometimes it does. But I usually give it just a matte varnish afterwards if I'm worried about it reactivating. But sometimes the reactivating can be good if you then like mix a little like paler paint into it. You can kind of get some free highlights. That's not bad.
A lot of reds. When I go into the red spectrum, I'll use. I've recently found a couple P3 reds that I like. My favorite red of all time is Kador red from P3.
Oh, that's such a good color.
It is a strong red.
Yeah.
And I paint with a lot of primary colors, and because that's what I can see, right? So like when a lot of people are like, yeah, they're like, why are they so vibrant? It's like, oh, because I fucking suck. I don't know. I'm colorblind.
I have no choice.
Yeah. So G, do you have any particularly like reds that you like for colorblind folks out there?
For colorblind folks? I couldn't recommend a red for colorblind folks.
How about yourself? Normal people.
For myself, the reds I like to use, Wild Rider Red. I like Wild Rider Red a lot.
Classic.
It's a good color.
So Wild Rider fades into some of the other reds from GW for me. Like I can sometimes tell the difference, but sometimes it gets too close to the other GW reds. I like Mephiston.
Mephiston's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing is I'm not good about maintaining that pot, so I'm constantly cleaning it to get the rims off.
Mm-hmm.
How about gold? What is your favorite gold?
Oh, that's easy. Retributor armor.
Yeah, same.
Easiest
awesome
Retributor
color.
armor of my life. Easy.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's so much fun to paint with.
We're the Retributor boys.
Oh, yeah.
You mix it with a little bit of like Stormhost silver to get it kind of like
the Stormhost silver.
Silver, yeah.
Yes.
Like this pale gold color, and like then you can control the level of highlights with it too by adding more, and even a little bit of white. You get pretty much all the kind of gold you need with just those two paints and white.
Yeah.
And some Reichland Flesh Shade.
If you want to make it darker, yeah.
Sometimes I'll glaze a brown like on the underside of a panel or of a trim if it's gold, the Retributor armor, and it takes a glaze really well too. Looks really nice.
Another tip that looked really good. I don't know if it is actually a thing. Somebody told me to undercoat my Retributor armor with Dark Angel's green, and it's supposed to it's supposed to make your gold look a lot older.
I can see that.
And I'm not sure if that's the case. It definitely changes the appearance of Retributor armor to me, because Retributor armor is very much more of a warm gold than not. And then the green undertone, I assume, since I did go to college and I did go to art classes, that it somehow nullifies the cool and the warm highlights to it to make it more of a neutral aged look, I guess. I'm not sure. I just know it looks kind of cool when I do it. If it looks real, I don't know. Like, I mean, I had to repaint Avatar like 7 times, and every time that I repainted Avatar, this is all before I knew I was colorblind. Now every time I painted the red, I was like, dude, I can't see any fucking highlights. Like, I don't know what's going on here. It was awful. And then I found out I was colorblind. I was like, oh, so because Avatar of Cain has like darker red, you know, it doesn't, it's a lot harder. It's fucking difficult. It's
that type
Avatar
of color really blends into other similar shades.
Yeah. Especially with the modeled background of it. Like it's not a flat surface. So like sometimes the light can play differently. And it's like, unless if somebody like Juan Hidalgo comes out with like an amazing, even his Juan Hidalgo's art thing on how he painted the Avatar of Cain, I've tried to follow it, and still, like, me painting that same red is extremely difficult. All problems Giacomo doesn't have to deal with.
Yep.
Man.
Damn, it feels good to have regular, normal everyday eyes.
Straight for the throat on that one.
I told you, I'm not winning sportsmanship here.
Man. Oh boy.
Yeah, but I think we'll round it out here, fellas. Thanks for jumping on today, talking so long. I appreciate you both,
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
You deserved it, man.
My pleasure.
You're such a good sport. I'm glad to have you on. Celebrate your accomplishment, brother.
And colorblindness.
Yeah, we'll celebrate that too. Absolutely.
All right, until next time, everyone.
Catch you later.
Peace.
The Squad Games podcast is a production of Squad Games Entertainment. For more information on Squad Games, please visit our website at lestersworkshop.com/squad-games.